Oh, you must be so proud.
And you speak my language too?
I can. This lot can only understand you. Clearly, they're not the brightest bunch around.
Is that accent supposed to be Scottish or Irish? I remember in Three's a Crowd when Fluttershy mentioned the Breezies. When I heard that an episode about the Breezes was on its way, I was actually expecting Three's a Crowd to be a foreshadow towards an episode that would connect with it. It was at this point I thought to myself that Three's a Crowd wouldn't be as pointless as I thought it would. Apparently that wasn't the case, and it's a bit of a shame too, especially given how connecting just for sidekicks in games Ponies play was a pointless gesture. But that's only nitpicking. Nevertheless, we have It Ain't Easy Being Breezies. And once again, we're on another polarizing episode. Gee, ain't that a surprise. And what's crazier is that Tommy Oliver placed this as the worst and his most hated episode of the series. Okay, it can't be that bad, can it? Seriously, fandom, why do you have to stretch me on split episodes every time? Anyway, this episode, as obvious, is an introduction of the new species. They're insect creatures that are so defenseless that upon arrival when they were breezing through Ponyville, a small pack is left behind after a flow was interrupted by a leaf. Spike is blamed for this, but I'm gonna have to save her for later. Fluttershy saves the small group and escorts them to safety, and it's here we're introduced to the leader of the pack, Seabreeze. He's the only one who could communicate with Fluttershy, and most of the episode we see how frustrated and aggressive he is. For the reasons being, Fluttershy keeps the rest of the Breezes held in her home, while his concern is trying to get them back home to begin with. This is because based on their journey where the Breezes arrive in Equestria to collect pollen and other resources despite their physical travel, they arrive through a portal which won't last very long and the Breezes need to get home before it closes, or they won't ever see their family members again. So this brings up many complaints I hear in the fandom. Why would the rest of the Breezies take advantage of Fluttershy when clearly they have family members and relatives to look out for? Another complaint is that the mythology and the lore of the creatures aren't fully explored on, as well as the value of the pollens, why they're defenseless, or why the town folk would be so supportive to them. First and foremost, that's not the point of the episode. Sure, there may have been many things to be explored upon, but that would have taken more than just this episode. But the real focus was on the testament on kindness towards Fluttershy. I even saw that coming from a mile away. In addition, Seabreeze was a great character to me. He had his reasons for his aggressions, and clearly it showed. The interactions between the two were pretty believable to me. I know that many are going to argue with me on that part for the episode, but it effectively did what was needed. In fact, the best scene was when Fluttershy stood up against the bees when Seabreeze was cornered. At one point, she politely told them to back away, but then she stood up to get aggressive.
Excuse me! I have done nothing but be kind, but I guess that is not working. You bees know better than to hurt a helpless Breezy. I demand that you go away now, or you'll have to answer to me!
The moral of the episode is that there's being too kind and there's being too aggressive. The unbalanced nature of these characters provided it pretty well, and it's pretty much what got me into Fluttershy's interactions with Seabreeze. By the end, Fluttershy's attempts to get the rest of the Breezes to leave was a difficult moment for her. To me, the scene worked. This leads me to one of the other following complaints. Why the Breezes refused to leave in the episode despite having family members to look out for. Here's where my viewpoint stands. In comparison with the Odyssey, Odysseus and his crew members arrived on a land at one point as they nourished on lotus fruits and plants. It put them in a mindset of relaxing and refusing to leave as their memories of their homeland were being forgotten. Odysseus had no choice but to force them back on the ship as his men were tied to the mast as he sailed off. Another story that was similar was in Guardians of Ga'Hoole. In Book 2, The Journey, Soren and his friends ran into the Mirror Lake, where their reflections showed themselves in an attractive state. Ever since then, they enjoyed themselves so much that Miss Plithifer had to get them to continue their journey and find the Ga'Hoole tree. Point being, despite however mind-controlling these scenes were, luxury and hospitality can get the best out of you. Nowadays, a lot of us don't like working or going to school. We all want to excuse ourselves from labor and do things we want to do. In our lives, we learn to reach out our comfort zones in order to grow, and not that many people intend to do so. I'm also guilty of that. There's that, and given how defenseless they are in Equestria, it'd be like us entering the planets of predators or xenomorphs. They don't want to continue from where they left off. Again, an odd comparison, but what dangers are they used to in their environment? Yes, the Breezes aren't explained as much either, and I understand the complaints with them. Either a later episode would suffice that or it won't. Either way, this potential doesn't matter to me as much as wanting the main characters to grow and develop. In fact, the next episode further exemplifies that, as it's one of the most disappointing episodes I've seen this season, if not the entire series. That's why I wasn't bothered with the wasted potential of the Breezies. It also was already clear that it was a toy advertisement. Just like with the Crystal Ponies, they aren't explained as well either. But I'm not bothered by it either because it's about the main 6. The entire series is an advert for toys, and while that is a bothersome fact, you could still make good narratives out of them, and the series has proven that in the past. That's also why I wasn't bothered with the main 6 being transformed into Breezies, though if I were to nitpick, I didn't like the Chimpette styled voice. Yeah, like I really needed to be reminded of that abomination that ruined Disney's potential to usher a new age. So on a whole, despite the very shortcomings this episode has, I enjoyed it nonetheless. Sure, there are many things that could have made it better. Sure, it could have been just centered on Fluttershy and the Breezes alone without the need of shoehorning the main 6 in. It is, after all, a key episode presented differently in contrast to everyone else's elemental counterparts. But the episode could have been a lot worse. I don't agree with Tommy Oliver's viewpoint. It was okay to say the least. So until next time, this is GoldenFox, and I'll catch you on the 17 Curse. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to get back to. It wasn't Spike's fault that the small chunk of the Breezes were left behind. He just wanted to see them when every pony was blocking his view. If anything, Twilight wasn't there for support. Thank you for nothing, so-called Princess of Celestia.